In this video, I'm going to give you guys the behind the scenes perspective of an engagement portrait shoot and show you how I work with ordinary couples who are not models to get them to look natural and confident in portraits. And in this video, I did not want to distract you guys or overwhelm you with gear and or settings, so I use a bare bones simplified kit for this posing tutorial. Basically, I use one camera and one fixed lens on that camera, which is the Fujifilm X100V with the attached 23 f2 lens. So with that, it's time to put these things in practice and take you guys behind the scenes on a real world engagement shoot. So when I'm on location walking around with a couple, I'm always looking for one of two things, either interesting backdrops or even directional lighting. And we come across this little pocket of greenery off the main walkway. And the first thing I do is tell each person exactly where to stand. Kind of step in closer in there. And don't be afraid to be specific, as a half step can be the difference between good light and bad light. I'm gonna have you scoot out just a little bit this way. Cool. For the first photo of the shoot, I try to give them something easy and familiar, so I just give them some rough directions to get them warmed up and do what feels comfortable for them at first. But right off the bat, I do see a few things we can improve on in this photo. First, it's very camera aware, and two, the lighting is a little uneven on them. And lastly, I do think we can get them a little bit closer, as closing the gap and getting the couple closer will convey intimacy. To get them closer, I do have him pull her in closer at the hips until there is no gap in between them. And I also have them rest their foreheads together. Close your eyes or however you want to, and you can just keep talking to each other just right there. But I'm always encouraging them to keep talking to each other, hopefully getting some laughs in while I'm snapping away at photos. Okay, so this one's definitely a little better, but it still has the sense of being posed. And the main reason for this is something that I learned from another wedding photographer named Roberto Valenzuela called the X factor. Basically, in order to determine the X factor of your photo, you draw an imaginary line coming from the nose of each person. If the lines are parallel or in line, it will really indicate a cheesy or posed photo. But if you can pose the couple's faces in a way that the lines create an X or intersect, this will almost always look more natural, candid, and less pose. Okay, so here the photo looks a lot better. It's more natural, and I also caught them in a nice expression. So in general, when I'm taking portraits, it's really a progressive thing. I get them started with one pose, and then I build on that initial shot and pose by fixing the posture and the body language. Then I try to get the light right. Once that's all done, I kind of wind them up and let them go, basically leaving some room for natural conversation and spontaneity to get that perfect dose of emotion and candidness. So without moving them, I do change my angle and focus on taking a shot that features the engagement ring on her hand. It's also important to pose their eyes and where they're looking. So give them clear directions of where you want them to look, or in this case, I asked her to close her eyes. Moving on to the next shot, I find this doorway that I can pose them in, and I have the couple side by side. But after analyzing how the light is falling on their faces, I have them switch sides. So now while I'm dialing in my exposure settings, I do notice that she's standing straight up with both legs kind of locked and even, which is okay, but it's better if we introduce some natural curvature to her posture. And the best way that I found to actually direct this is to just have them mimic what I'm doing, so I kind of do the pose myself. And then what I'm gonna have you do, Francine, is so you're standing up straight just like this. I want you to just kind of like that. So kind of like slouch over towards him like this way. You don't have to like slouch over, but just kind of like have all your weight on like one foot, and then kind of turn your hips a little bit right there. Yeah, and then Aaron, I'm gonna have you kind of look over right there. I may look a little silly, but I think it does help the couple to loosen up and get their mind off themselves if you're okay with just laughing at yourself. So as we're walking here, you'll see me stop at another interesting backdrop, and I'm using my hand to find where the light is coming from and to check the quality of the light and how even the light is. So what I have you do is, so Aaron, you're gonna stand here and face this way, and then this way. Francine, you're just gonna like have your back right against him. And when you're telling the couple where to stand, also tell them where to face. So where to face their shoulders and which way they're gonna be looking. The clearer that you can be, the better that everything will flow. The couple has the natural tendency to hold each other in this pose. And if you actually look and think about this pose, you'll realize that this typical prom looking pose is also the most popular pose for maternity or pregnancy photos when people are expecting a baby. So the best way that I found to fix this is to have the guy wrap his arms around her from the top, hugging mainly around the upper arms. And then I'll have her put her hands on his. In general, it's best to have all the hands always engaged, so holding each other or interacting with the environment. I rotate the couple just a little bit towards the light to ensure that the light is falling on their faces just right, and I use my hands to gesture rotating them. One of my friends coined this technique the Force touch, kind of like the Jedis from the Star Wars movies. If you make a clear enough gesture with your hands, they'll actually just follow the motion, so try it out yourself and see how effective it is for your couples. So here we have a great moment and expression. The hips are nice and close together, all the hands are engaged, and their heads are nice and snuggled up. We've also got the X factor going on for that candid look. And the direction that I gave her was to kind of look back at him in kind of like a playful and flirty way. And here you see me employing the Force touch again, and I have him just hug her a little bit tighter. Then I change positions and shoot from the right side of the couple, just snapping away and kind of waiting for that perfect moment as they're just talking and joking around with each other. And for this one, I really do love the expression that's going on here. So we move on to the next location. I just have the couple just get close and comfortable again. Here, there are a few things we can fix. The first is I can't really see her face. It's always better if we can see both faces, even just a little bit. And two, I want to try to get them frame centered in this area between the trees over here. So to do this, I have them rotate a little bit and direct her to look over her left shoulder more. So here the pose is pretty much dialed in, and I feel like this can be a really good shot. So I pull out one of my one-liners. Basically, I have him think of what her favorite thing could be, whether it's like a food or dessert, or in this case a beer, and I have him whisper it into her ear in the sexiest voice possible. And this usually gets a good laugh. So before they execute the prompt, I remind them to pull each other in just a little bit closer at the hips and just cuddle in, and then I tell him to say it and I shoot away. Then here I'm just changing angles and the position slightly. So for this next shot, we found this really cool pond with lily pads. So I get them in position and get to the other side of the pond and tweak the pose just a little bit. Whenever one of them looks away from the camera too much, a quick fix is to tell that person to just turn their nose more towards the camera. And this will get them looking more in the direction that shows their face.
And then turn your nose toward me a little bit, Francine, right there. And then rotate like that way. There you go.
So while I really like the framing of this shot, I feel like the couple can scoot over just a little bit so that this vine isn't behind them. You want to always pay attention to what's behind the couple and surrounding their heads.
Sorry, can I have you guys take one step? Do you have more room this way? Oh, that's why. A little bit more right there. There you go.
Now that looks a lot better, and this is probably one of my favorite shots from this shoot. For this next shot, I did this frame within a frame composition through this window here. If you can't already tell, this is actually the incorrect positioning, but I did so to demonstrate a point to you guys. Always pay attention where the light is coming from. In this case, it's coming from the right and going to the left, which is why she is in shadow. And for me, I actually prioritize getting the most flattering light on the bride-to-be, so to fix this, we'll have to swap their positions. And some minor tweaking of the positioning. For me, it's really a game of inches. Now you can see that the light is coming from the correct direction, and I'm happy with this frame. Also, if you haven't noticed, throughout this entire shoot, I've been trying to keep my ISO as low as possible, shooting wide open at f2 for most of the shots, and the shutter speed is ideally over 1/160 of a second to freeze any micro movements of the couple to be nice and crisp. So getting a little closer, I position her arm a little closer. It's typically best to avoid 90-degree angles with the body parts, especially the arms.
And then I'm gonna have you kind of like rest your right hand a little bit higher up on his arm, or how about on his, kind of like on his chest maybe right there, and then drop it down right. And you can kind of tuck your elbow behind his arm.
After we were talking, I found out that they're really into the show The Office. So what I do is I have them think about the character that their fiance is.
So Aaron, I'm gonna have you come in, whisper right into your ear what you think which Office character Francine is. Right into your ear.
Now, while camera aware portraits aren't the best way for us photographers to flex our creative muscles, I always make a point to take this shot, at least one of these camera aware shots during the shoot. While posing, keep an eye on how they're actually holding their chins. People tend to look either too high or too low, so be sure to fix that for the most flattering position.
So we're gonna have you chin down just a tad, a little bit right there. Awesome. Gonna have you smile.
Once it's dialed in, I take one shoulder up photo, a full body one, and one vertical one. More often than not, when a print is purchased, it's going to be one of these, especially when it's purchased from one of the older family members like an aunt, a parent, a grandparent, etc. In addition to camera aware portraits, I also like to make an effort to also shoot the couple's clothing and accessories. In this case, I did like their shoes. So the key to posing these type of shots as well is just to make sure that their foot placement and where their toes are pointed is intentional. So the next thing that I shoot is a shot of the ring. First, I have the couple just hold their hands as they naturally would, but you'll quickly notice that you can't actually see the engagement ring. So what I'll do is have the couple adjust this a little bit.
So just open it up and then just kind of like grasp each other's hands very lightly.
I have them not interlace their fingers, and I actually have them hold at a lighter grasp. And this looks both relaxed and showcases the engagement ring a lot better. And while it's not an exact portrait, I make a point to take photos of just the engagement ring by itself during the engagement session if I have time. And my approach to this is to just look for interesting textures or surfaces like this rock here, and I'm repositioning the ring to ensure that the lighting is falling on it how I'd like. And also don't be afraid to think outside of the box. Here I find a large leaf that I could put the ring on. So as the session winds down, I always make sure to ask the couple if they wanted any specific type of shots that I haven't done yet. That way, if there's an idea that they wanted or a shot that they really wanted for a particular item like a website or a save the date, then I ensure that I get that done. In this case, they wanted me to shoot from the other side of that window that we photographed previously. So I like this so far, but I'd rather her not have her eyes be so obviously looking at him. I like a more emotive or expressive pose. So again, knowing that they like The Office, I start conversing about the show a little bit more. So this gets them to open up and enjoy a memory that they have from watching the show. And as this moment keeps going on, I change up my position a little bit and my framing. And on the way out, there's this cool plant wall, so I snap a few more camera aware photos against this different backdrop. And this pretty much wraps up the behind the scenes portion for this posing tutorial. If you learned something new in this video, give it a like, and if you have any questions about my technique, approach, or a specific thing I did or said, let me know down in the comments below. And while I taught a lot about how I fix posing and how I direct the couples and create natural looking portraits, I didn't really go into the actual structure of the poses that I was using. So if you want me to make a video on my top poses for wedding photography and engagement sessions, let me know down in the comments below. If we can get it to 100 comments during this first week, I'll be sure to make that video for you guys. As always, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I make a new Fujifilm or photography video every week. And if that's too long, be sure to follow me on Instagram at RGBphoto for new tips, tricks, and tutorials throughout the week. Alright, that's it for me. Remember to get out, go shoot, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.